Hi, how's it going? I am going to do try a little experiment sort of today. Instead of just giving you some assignment, I'm going to give you actual notes and kind of flip. Some of you guys have had that, I assume, before. And then tomorrow go over this stuff, see if you have any questions about it, instead of, like I said, just giving you some busy work, which, whatever. The assignment part is in the on the page about turning in your notes and all that stuff. Again, I can correct anything tomorrow or sort out whatever we've got, but we've got a couple more things, 3 things. I think I'll just do 2 of them. And then in theory, maybe we finish tomorrow, great, and then we test on Monday. If not, we test on Tuesday. So here we go. Anyway, the next thing, we finished block grants, hopefully, or devolution and block grants, which go together. Hopefully, if you don't have any more questions on that. If you do, we can go back over tomorrow. The next one, though, are mandates, the next 2. And a mandate, I assume you know that word, in order to do something, whatever. Okay. Well, government does this. So basically, you've got what are called the funded mandates, which we'll talk about first, and then in-funded mandates. And I'll show you a close-up of the board here, if you can't see it as we go here. But here you're thinking about basically simply government orders the states to do something, and pays for it. Okay? Several examples here of these. But basically, the government's telling a state or a city or whatever to do something, and then they are going to fund it. So if you think about something like, kind of like the school lunch thing, sort of. We're going to fund it, and here's what you will do with these kids. A better example is, and this is not something you may know about, but kind of the classic example is George W. Bush, Patent Terror, No Child Left Behind, which was this thing about, education reform where no child should be left behind. And the thing was, how do you do this? That you wanted education reform to happen, test scores to go up, okay? And I don't know how you feel about, things like the SAT, not the SAT so much, but the I-STEP and all that. How do you make those go up? So what I want to talk about tomorrow a little bit to fill in these gaps is what kind of things could states, schools, towns, whatever, do to make their kids' test scores go up. All right, so the federal government gave money. Here's a bunch of money. Take it and make your test scores go up. So think about the different things. Like I said, we'll fill this in tomorrow. What schools can do to do this. Just to give you one simple example, you could theoretically raise teacher salaries, which arguably would either make us work harder or would create a motivation for better people to go into the industry. But there are lots and lots of other options that you could look at. We'll get into that tomorrow. Okay? And the point here was if they didn't improve their test scores, they got like a warning or whatever, and then the next time they start pulling funding, and then they end up taking over the schools. And this is roughly what happened, if you know this, with Muncie. Muncie schools got taken over by Ball State, and Ball State runs the schools system. And Gary, our dear friend Gary, Indiana, they got taken over by the state. And I forget who runs them, but they're both sort of taken over because it was just they weren't being run well, and test scores were dropping, and attendance was horrible, and misbehavior, and so on and so on and so on. So be thinking about ways that could happen. And these are, this is like, kind of like you have to go buy school clothes, but here's some money. You have to go clean your room, but here's some, or not clean your room, but renovate and paint your room, but here's the paint, here's the brushes, here, and so on and so forth. So you don't love it, but at least you get money for it, okay? The big difference between that and a categorical grant, by the way, and a block grant, think about the grants generally coming from the states, like, hey, can we have some money? And here the mandate is coming from the federal government. Here's what you're going to do, which may or may not be something that's great, but at least, like I said, it's funded. Okay? That's the first type. Second type is an unfunded mandate. Okay? Government orders states, I'm not going to write this, orders states and does not pay for it. So this is telling you to paint your room and fix it all up, and you pay for it. And you have to buy these school clothes, and you pay for it. So as you might guess, government states don't really like this. You're told what to do, and you have to fund it. Probably the best example of this one is something called the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. If you think about our school, what do we have here that is pertaining to handicaps? You got parking spots. You got the little rampy things that make, like in the sidewalk. You've got bathrooms, that big stall with like Frankton having their prom in that thing, so big, with the grab bars. Sometimes you might see, if you've ever seen a restroom where they've got like a little sink, like a low sink, and the mirror is all angled differently, because a person in a wheelchair obviously needs a, think physics, geometry, I guess, that kind of stuff. The elevator, which we did not used to have, that came in when we had a kid with the muscular dystrophy, I think it was, yeah. So we had to put an elevator in, and that added a lot of cost and so on and so forth. And you think about places like Target and Walmart and all that. All of those, every Target's got to have those wheelchair spaces and the paint, the special paint, and the wider, and the signs, and the different ramps, if they have ramps, if they have curbs, and the bathrooms, and all this stuff have to be put in there and paid for. So it doesn't really add to the company's profit, but it's something that they have to put in. And we don't have profit, obviously, but it costs us money, and all because the government has told us we have to. Okay? So these are two types of federalism. Again, most mandates are funded for obvious reasons. If you keep doing this, there's going to be a mutiny soon enough. But think about something like, if as an example, Mr. Biden has said if elected and the COVID thing gets worse again, he will order a nationwide mask mandate, which I'm not sure if he can do that. But if he does, arguably, if you're going to mandate that, they're going to pay for it, and everybody's going to get X amount of masks or whatever, or hand sanitizer, things like that. And that's how those things work. Typically, like I said, we fund it, but if we don't fund it, I guess over time people just get used to it, which is kind of, frankly, what government ends up counting on. And I guess they get away with it that way to some degree. So, okay, so we will fill in gaps on both of these tomorrow. This is a quick one. Like I said, just want to kind of test this and be thinking about the ways to improve schools. And then I'll give you a couple other examples on Friday about how this works, okay? All right, see you tomorrow. Bye.